Have you ever waited for someone who was never going to come? Have you ever been the strongest person in the room simply because you had no other choice? What if I told you a woman once walked through snow alone, in labor, because the man who promised to stay disappeared into the night, and she would spend years wondering exactly why? This is her story.
My name is Maya. I waited for him outside the hospital. He never came. This is my real story. It was a cold December night, many years ago. I was 23, living in a small fourth-floor apartment with no elevator, only old wooden stairs. The wind pushed hard against the thin bedroom window, whoosh, whoosh. I wore a heavy gray sweater and still felt cold. I looked down at my belly, 9 months pregnant, and scared. I lived with my boyfriend, Daniel, 25, tall, with a smile that once made me feel completely safe. That night, before everything changed, he sat beside me on the bed and rested his hand gently on my belly. "Tonight," he whispered, "we finally meet our son." His eyes looked soft, almost afraid, in a way I did not understand yet. An hour later, the pain started. Sharp, then stronger. "Daniel," I said, shaking him awake. "The baby is coming." His face changed fast, from love to something closer to panic. He pulled on his coat fast, his hands shaking. "I will get a taxi downstairs," he said. "Come down slowly." At the door, he turned back and looked at me one more time, a strange, heavy look I could not read. Then he was gone. Rehook. That look on Daniel's face was not fear of the birth. It was something else entirely, and I would not understand what until much later that night. Another pain hit the moment the door closed. I breathed through it, telling myself, "You can do this, Maya." I pulled on my coat and boots, packed a small bag with 2 baby shirts and a blanket, and walked into the dark hallway alone. The stairs were freezing. I held the wall with one hand and my belly with the other, stopping each time the pain came. When I reached the street, snow was falling hard, covering everything in white. I looked left, right, everywhere. No taxi. No Daniel. I called his name into the wind. Only silence answered. I waited 10 freezing minutes, my hands going numb, until a pain worse than any before dropped me to my knees in the snow. "Someone, please help me," I cried. No one came. I knew staying there could kill us both, so I forced myself up and started walking toward the hospital, 6 blocks away. Each block felt endless, the wind pushing against me, my tears freezing on my cheeks. When I finally reached the hospital doors, I was frozen and could barely stand. A nurse named Grace rushed to me. "Where is your husband?" she asked gently. "He went for a taxi," I whispered. "He never came back." She called Daniel's phone twice. It rang, then went silent, forever. Rehook. I did not have time to wonder where Daniel had gone, because in the next few minutes, I would hear a sound that changed my entire life. They wheeled me into a warm room. I pushed with everything I had left, until I heard him, a small, powerful cry. "It's a boy," the doctor said. Nurse Grace placed him on my chest, and I whispered, "Hello, my sweet boy, I am your mother." I named him Eli. 2 days later, I carried Eli home alone. My apartment was silent and cold. Daniel's clothes were gone, his shoes, his bags, everything, packed while I was in the hospital. But on the kitchen table, I found something strange, a folded piece of paper with only 3 words written on it. "I am sorry," no explanation. No address. No answer to the question I needed most: why? I kept that paper in a drawer for years, never quite able to throw it away. Never quite able to understand it either. I had no job, no family, almost no money. The first week was hard, feeding Eli, barely sleeping, eating plain rice to save what little I had. Then one morning, my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Ellen, knocked with a pot of warm soup, and her kindness finally broke the tears I had been holding back for days. With her encouragement, I searched for work I could do with Eli beside me, store after store saying no, until I smelled fresh bread and found a small bakery, Rehook. That folded note felt like the beginning of an answer, but it would take years, and one unexpected stranger, before I understood what it truly meant. The bakery owner, an older man named Carl, stopped for a moment when he saw the stroller. "Please," I said, "just one chance." Something in my eyes made him pause, and he said yes. Every morning at 4 o'clock, I walked to the bakery with Eli in his stroller, tucked safely in a corner. I learned to knead dough and wash heavy pans until my hands turned raw. One afternoon, Eli, now walking, wandered too close to the hot oven while I was busy with a delivery. Carl moved faster than I thought a man his age could move, catching him just before he touched the metal door. My hands shook for an hour after. Carl simply patted my shoulder. "He is fine, Ruby," he said, using a nickname that stuck. "But watch him like he is the only thing that matters, because he is." Later that week, I noticed Carl looking at an old photograph in the back room. A young man I did not know. "Who is that?" I asked. Carl closed the drawer fast. "Someone I lost," he said quietly, and walked away before I could ask more. I did not think much of it then. I had bread to bake, coins to save in my glass jar, and a son who was already saying his first word, not mama, but bread, Rehook. I had no idea that photograph held a piece of Carl's own broken heart, one he would only share with me on the hardest night of his life. Eli turned for the November. Everything nearly fell apart again. One night he refused dinner, laid his head on the table, burning with fever. By morning his breathing turned rough, coughing like a small dog barking. I emptied my savings jar and rushed him to the clinic. "Pneumonia," the doctor said. "He needs medicine right away." I ran to the pharmacy, my heart pounding, and counted my coins on the counter, $47 exactly. The pharmacist looked at the register, then back at me. "Someone already paid part of this," he said. "About an hour ago." No name given. It is already covered. I stood there, confused, my hands still full of coins I no longer needed. Who would do that? No one knew we were here except the doctor and the clinic staff. I asked everyone. No one had an answer. I held Eli that night, his medicine working through him, and for the first time in years, alongside my fear, I felt something else too, a strange, warm feeling that someone out there was still watching over us, quietly, from far away. I did not have time to chase that mystery. Eli needed me, and mysteries do not pay rent. But I never forgot that unanswered question, not once, in all the years that followed. Rehook. I would learn who paid that bill sooner than I expected. On the same night Carl finally told me the truth about his photograph. Eli's fever broke. That night, once he was finally asleep, I walked back to the bakery to thank Carl for covering my shifts. I found him sitting alone in the dark kitchen, the old photograph open on the table in front of him. "That is my son," Carl said quietly, before I could even ask. His name was Michael. He left his wife and baby 15 years ago, scared, in debt, ashamed to face them. I told him to go back. He never did. 2 years later, he passed away, far from home. Before he ever fixed what he broke, my whole body went still. I never met the woman he left, Carl said. I never got to help her. So when you walked into my bakery, alone, with a baby in a stroller, I saw a second chance standing in front of me. I could not save my own son. But I could help you. "I am sorry about Michael, Carl," I whispered. He nodded slowly, quiet for a long moment, just looking at the photograph. Then he set it down gently, and looked up at me with different eyes, softer, almost nervous. "There is one more thing, Ruby," he said. "The pharmacy, for years ago, when Eli was sick. That was me. I heard you counting coins on my kitchen phone that morning, and I called ahead before you even arrived." I sat down slowly across from him, understanding now why kindness had always come so naturally to this man, and why he had watched Eli so closely from the very first day. "Just raise your boy well," he said. "That is enough for both of us." Rehook. Carl's confession answered one mystery completely, but it left another question hanging in the air, one I would not expect an answer to for 3 more years. Life found its pattern again. Eli started school, and I sewed patches onto his old jacket because we could not afford a new one. Carl, older now, began teaching me his late wife's handwritten recipes, page by page. One Saturday, a man began visiting the bakery. He never gave his name. He always ordered the same thing, 1 loaf, plain, and always watched Eli from across the room while pretending not to. He came back the following week. And the week after that, Mrs. Ellen noticed first. "That man again," she whispered to me one afternoon. "4th time this month. He never says a word, just watches your boy like he is looking for something he lost." I started watching him too, carefully. From behind the counter. Something about his eyes felt strangely familiar, though I could not say why. "Eli, do you know that man?" I asked one evening. Eli shrugged. "He always smiles at me, Mama, but he looks sad when he does it." I told myself it was nothing, a lonely customer, perhaps a father missing his own children. But some nights, lying awake, I could not shake the feeling that this stranger was not really a stranger at all. Rehook. I was right to feel that way, because the next Saturday, that man finally spoke, and one sentence changed everything. The bell rang above the door that Saturday, and the man walked in, same quiet steps, same plain loaf. But this time, before leaving, he turned back and said, "Maya, it is me." "Daniel," I nearly dropped the tray in my hands. 8 years, I whispered. 8 years, and you choose today, watching from across a room instead of speaking. "Why now, Daniel?" He sat down slowly, his hands shaking around the loaf of bread. "I owed money, Maya," he said. "Bad money to bad people." That night, I panicked about all of it at once. I told myself I was protecting you by leaving, that you were safer without my problems following you. I told myself it was love. Now I know it was fear, not bravery, and the pharmacy. I asked, my voice breaking. "That was you, wasn't it?" He shook his head slowly. "No," he said, and his confusion looked real. "I have sent money before, small amounts, when I could. But not that day. I do not know who paid that bill, Mia." I sat frozen for a moment, realizing the second mystery was already solved, quietly, months ago, by a grieving old man 2 rooms away, not by the man sitting in front of me now. Rehook. Explaining himself to me was the easy part. What came next, facing his son for the very first time, would be far harder for both of them. I told Daniel he could meet Eli, but only if Eli wanted to, and only on Eli's terms. That evening, I sat my son down and told him, gently, that the quiet man from the bakery was his father. Eli went very still. The following Saturday, Daniel came to the apartment. Eli did not run to him. He did not smile. He walked halfway across the room, then stopped, and quietly moved behind my legs, peeking out from beside me, saying nothing at all. Daniel knelt down slowly, his eyes filling with tears. "Hello, Eli," he said softly. Eli stayed silent for a long, heavy moment. Then, in a small voice, he asked the only question that mattered. "Why did you leave us in the snow?" The room went completely quiet. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it, unable to find an answer good enough for an 8-year-old boy who deserved the truth. "I was scared, and I was wrong," he finally said. "There is no good reason, Eli. Only excuses, and I am sorry for every single one of them." Eli did not hug him. He did not forgive him, not that day. He simply nodded, still holding on to my leg, and said, "Okay." It was not healing. It was just a beginning, small and honest, exactly as it should have been. Rehook, that single, quiet okay held more truth than any speech Daniel could have prepared, and it was only the first small step of many still to come. Daniel never became a big part of our lives. He visited sometimes, always as a guest, never fully part of our home, always on Eli's terms, never his own. Slowly, carefully, something between them grew, not quite forgiveness, but something honest enough to matter. Carl passed the bakery to me the year Eli turned 16, his hands too tired to keep working, his trust in me complete. I never stopped thinking about his son, and about the second chance he found in me and Eli, the chance he never got with his own family. I gave birth alone, in the snow, with no one beside me. But I did not raise my son alone, not really, because kindness kept showing up, again and again, in a soup pot. A flower-covered apron, a quiet, unnamed gift at a pharmacy counter, exactly when we needed it most. If you have ever felt like you were carrying everything by yourself, I want you to know, help does not always arrive the way you expect it to. Sometimes it comes from someone you love who failed you. Sometimes it comes from a stranger with his own quiet grief. Either way, it counts. Tell me in the comments, has someone unexpected ever shown up for you exactly when you needed them? See you in the next story.